Well, hey everybody, my name is Nikki and welcome to this week's meeting of the Perpetual WIP Club. It's officially summer. It started on Saturday, although it's been kind of summer-like for a bit here, but I don't know, it's all of a sudden things have gotten really busy. There have been events, there's been fiber festivals. Here in my area, they have an old Revolutionary era fort, and they call it Garrison Days every year down in one of the little communities close to me. And of course, this year for the 250th, it was quite a big celebration. And, we've got our fireworks show coming up this week, and there's been just all kinds of stuff going on and doing yard work. And I was out on the deck over the weekend and I was just, enjoying some quiet time and sitting there with a glass of wine. And next thing I know, my neighbors came over and brought wine and we sat out there until it was well past dark. I mean, it was almost 11 o'clock and they toddled on back home, and it's just been crazy busy, and most of it's unplanned busy. So there just hasn't been a lot of knitting time. And it kind of got me to thinking, summertime is always so busy. I think most of my audience, according to YouTube, is somewhere in my age group. And you're probably not dealing with, little kids running around in the summertime, but you might have grandkids that are spending time with you, or, going out to various sporting events and kid activities, and it's, graduation party season and all of those things. And I was just kind of curious as to if other people find it a challenge to get some good knitting time in this time of year. As I've told you guys before, I live in Western Pennsylvania, and wintertime, it's really easy to find time to knit because you're not going outside. It's just too cold. But in the summertime, at least here, and I haven't always lived here, but I find that here, once the weather breaks and starts getting nice, people are outside. I don't care what they're doing, they are outside. They're in their cars, they're in the parks, they're outside. And I find that interesting, but I've lived here long enough that I've kind of fallen into that pattern myself. So the sun comes out and outside I go. So I haven't made a whole lot of progress on many of my projects. So curious, do you guys still find it harder to knit in the summertime when the weather's nice? Or do you live in an area where the weather's nice all the time and it doesn't matter, you still find time to knit? Curious. Let me know in the comments. But I've gotten my yard work is all done. The yard has looked nicer than it has in a long time because I've been able to get out and do that. And so let me know about your knitting cycles here. I did make some really good progress on the Cambridge vest. I actually made enough progress that I can have it on a hanger. The body is done. It obviously hasn't been blocked yet, so that ribbed edge is rolling a little bit, but the body is done, and I picked up stitches. I think I did 2 rows on the neckband there. Oh, I thought I made a mistake. I didn't. We're good. So a couple more rows to do on that. And then you pick up and do some ribbing around the sleeves, and then weave in ends and give her a bath, and she will be ready to go. I tell you what, I tried it on last night before I started the neck, and it fits really well, and it's going to look really nice over blouses or over a dress. I will say that, obviously I knit that in the Juniper Moon Moonshine base, which is a blend of wool and alpaca. So it's warm. But if you were to do that pattern in a summer yarn, for example, it's a worsted weight pattern. The Cumulus by Juniper Moon is a worsted weight cotton. The way that it fits, the armholes are not too deep. The V-neck, you can make that as deep or as shallow kind of as you want, just based on how much ribbing you do. You could wear that as a summer shirt. I mean, it would be a really cute just pullover summer top if you did that in a cotton or a linen or some other plant-based yarn that would be a little cooler for this time of year. The pattern is wonderful. This is my fourth project from Tanis Fiber Arts, but the Rocket Tee I've made 2 of. So I've done 3 of her patterns, and her patterns are really easy to follow, and they're very well written, and you don't have to do any math. She tells you exactly what you need to do and when. She's also one of the things that sometimes gets confusing in patterns when they tell you to do like rows 1 through 4 and then do rows 1 through 4 10 times. Is it 10 more times? Is it 10 total times? She tells you 10 more times. And it's that one little word that really helps. I know a lot of the designers that I've seen will say do it 10 times, but at least they give you a stitch count that you should have when you finish, so you can tell if it's 10 times or 11 times, including the one you just did. So, but she is very, very clear in her patterns. They're super easy to follow. If you have not made anything from her yet, highly recommend checking out her shop. She has an online shop. She also sells yarn, and her yarn is really pretty. I haven't tried any of it yet, but I've looked at several of her colorways, and she definitely has bright and happy colors. So definitely check that out as well. But her patterns are great, and she's released a couple of new things for this summer, and she's not only a favorite of mine, she's a favorite of the ladies in my knitting group as well. We've all purchased and made a bunch of her patterns. One of the gals in my knitting group is making her, it's the Getty tee, and it has granny squares for your shoulder, and then the rest of it, you pick up the granny squares, and then you knit the rest of it. It's a V-neck t-shirt, and it's just going to be so cute when it's done. She's going to look adorable in it. But I have that pattern as well. I just haven't made that yet. Trying to figure out. I always struggle with colors. Always. My 2 favorite colors, in case you can't tell from my living room, are blue and yellow. But, you know, I don't always just wear blue and yellow. Obviously, I have a black shirt on today. But trying to figure out colors that will coordinate with things that are in my wardrobe and not just colors I like always is a struggle, especially when there's multiple colors in a sweater or a shirt. So I have a friend that's part of the knitting group that is a color genius, and I will pick her brain and say, okay, I have these colors, what should I choose? And she helps, and they always look beautiful. I did make some progress on the baby blanket. Not much. I don't think I've made too much since the last time I showed you. But, ta-da! That's backwards. There we go. It is big enough that it's curling around on the cable, which is fine. The colors are a lavender and a gray and a cream, and I'm just going to alternate the garter sections. So this garter section is the cream, and then the eyelets will always be in gray, and then this one in the lavender and then gray, and I've just started in the cream again. And these little tips do not stay on these needles. And I've used multiple ones and they just don't like to stay on. I need to get some new stoppers. But you know, there's a yarn show coming up soon in August called Stitchburgh, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to find some new stoppers there. Might even take that project with me and stick it on the needles and see if it works. I did also start the Alchemist Tee. Oh, one last thing before I jump to this one. The yarns on that I'm using on the baby blanket, it is a blend of wool and alpaca. I got it from Expression Fiber Arts. And Expression Fiber Arts, she really helped me when I was first starting to learn how to knit. I initially was a crocheter. And I've been knitting for, oh gosh, probably 8 or 9 years now. But I kept seeing all these patterns for knitted socks and knitted sweaters, and they were all so pretty. And I know that there's patterns for crochet socks, but they just aren't the same. I did make a pair of crochet socks, and I only wear them in the deep winter and only with my big snow boots because I need bulky socks for those boots. But other than that, they're just too thick for me to wear with any other shoe. So I wanted to learn how to knit socks, and that's why I started to learn how to knit. And there were a few different podcasters that I would watch when I was first learning how. Marley Bird was one, Very Pink Knits was one, and Shandy from Expression Fiber Arts. If you sign up for her newsletter, you get a free pattern every Friday. And every Friday, she puts together a little video about whether one week it'll be a crochet pattern and the next week it'll be a knitting pattern. And she will put together a little video and kind of walk you through any of the more interesting stitches or stitch patterns that might be in that week's pattern. And the pattern is always free on Fridays. And then she usually has a discount code for the yarn that is used in the pattern. Her yarns are so soft. If I am looking for squishy, soft yarns, I get them from her. Her cashmere sock base, my feet feel like they're in heaven when I'm wearing those socks. Highly recommend. Highly, highly recommend. But she puts those videos together, and when I first started knitting, I had a big skein of Red Heart, and I cast on like 80 stitches. And as I would learn new stitches, I would work it on that 80 stitch Red Heart, whatever. That panel is about 5 feet long now. I haven't picked it up in a while because I haven't tried any new stitches in a bit. But there's lace, there's a couple rows of cables, there's purl rows and knit rows, there's basket weave rows, there's, where you drop a stitch and, and knit through and slip stitches and all of the things that you learn when you're learning how to knit. I did on this, and I would practice until I kind of had it figured out and had it down. And then I would go and do it in my project so that if I made a mistake, I was making it on it's not a scarf, it's just a panel. So if you're newer to knitting, or somebody who's just starting out knitting, buy them a skein of Red Heart and tell them to cast on a bunch of stitches. And 80 seemed to be enough that I could work most patterns and pattern repeats. They didn't all work out even, but that's all right. But you had enough stitches that you could get kind of a flow going. So highly recommend. It was an idea that was shared by one of the podcasters that I was watching in those days. So definitely. But like I said, I've also cast on the Alchemist Tee. It's still baby. I think it's a little less of a baby than what it was when I showed you last week, but I don't think I've done more than a couple of rows on this. I have a tendency to hyper focus when I'm close to being done. So when I measured the vest, I had like 12.5 inches, and you're supposed to go to 14, I think. And I was like, oh, I'm really close. So I was pushing on that, and I bound off the bottom last night. So now that that's, I mean, it's virtually all but done. It won't take long to do. I think there's only 3 or 4 more rows of ribbing on the neckline, and then a few rows of ribbing on each sleeve. So that won't take long. So I'll be able to get some more time in on this. And I do need to get the baby blanket done. So that will be my next hyper focus. And then I'll jump into this one afterwards. But this is on that Knit Picks palette yarn, which is really one of their workhorse yarns. They have it on sale a lot. It's not terribly expensive. This is the Larch Heather. I think I put a picture on the screen in last week's video so you guys could see the color. It's really like this deep mossy green. It's really pretty. When I was learning how to knit socks, I wanted to knit colorwork socks because go big or go home, right? And so Knit Picks was having one of their sales, and I bought a bunch of just single skeins of the palette yarn in a bunch of different colors, so that when I was working on colorwork socks, I would have colors in my stash that I could use with whatever other yarn I was using to make the colorwork socks. And because they were having a big sale, it didn't cost a lot to do that. And it really is a nice yarn. There's no nylon content to this, so I wouldn't use it on heels and toes. But if you're doing like color work up the leg of your sock, or even on the foot of your sock, you know, like on the top of your foot, it would be fine for that. I haven't had any problems with the colorwork socks that I've made using this. But again, I've only done the color work from like the ankle and onto the leg part of the sock. I haven't done it on the foot or the heels or the toes, only because there's no nylon content in this. But the yarn is really nice. It's Peruvian wool, I believe. If I'm wrong, I'll put the correction up here. But it's a really nice wool, and this shirt will be, I really like the Alchemist series from Wool and Pine. I did the slip over and they fit really nice, so I'm really looking forward to getting that one done. It will get a lot of wear this year, if I ever get it finished. So yeah, like I said, I've been really busy. I haven't made a lot of significant progress on things. I mean, the vest is in good shape, but other than that, I've just been doing stuff outside where the sun is shining. So I think we can wrap this up. I guess less knitting means less meeting time. But as always, thank you all for liking, for subscribing. Keep the comments coming. I love reading the comments. Let me know if you kind of slow down your knitting this time of year. I'm sure that by mid-July and August, when it gets too hot outside, then I'll be back into knit. But while we've had some low humidity and nice temperatures, it's been nice to be outside. Again, if you're on Instagram, you can follow me on Instagram. I am still doing the coffee shop series. We're going to go to a new coffee shop this week, so that should be pretty fun. In fact, I have 2 coffee dates this week, so we'll see. I'll try to get pictures of both of those and get them up on Instagram. And yeah, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. I'm just looking at my notes to see if there's anything I'm forgetting. I think I've talked enough today. But let me know about your knitting time, and if you've found any ways where you can sneak in a few stitches here and there, even though it's a busy time of year. Excuse me. I'm looking for any kind of suggestions that you may have on when I can sneak in a little bit of extra time. So enjoy your week. Find some joy in your crafting or whatever brings you joy this time of year. And remember, life happens between stitches. Bye.